Vidute Maitai Sava Bhakta. Because it consists of three-fourths of the Lord's energy, the spiritual world is called Kripa. Being a manifestation of one-fourth of the Lord's energy, the entire world is called Kripa. Krishna. Vishnu. The three-fourths part of the Lord Krishna's energy is beyond our speaking power. Let us therefore hear elaborately about the remaining one. So this one, there's a purport for it. So we'll go through the word for it. Ananta Brahmandera Yata Brahma Rudragana Ananta Brahmandera Yata Brahma Rudragana Chira Loka Pala Shabde Tahara Ganana Chira Loka Pala Shabde Tahara Ganana Ananta Brahmandera Yata Brahma Rudragana Chira Loka Pala Shabde Tahara Ganana Ananta Unlimited Brahmandera of the universes Yata all Brahma Lord Brahmas Rudragana and Lord Shivas Chira Lokapala permanent governors of the worlds Shabde by the word Tahara of them Ganana counting. Actually, it is very difficult to ascertain the number of universes. Every universe has its separate Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who are known as permanent governors. Therefore, there's also no counting them. Responsible, please. Actually, it's very difficult to ascertain the number of universes. Every universe has its separate Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who are known as permanent governors. Therefore, there is also no counting them. Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are called Chira Lokapala, permanent governors. This means that they govern the affairs of the universe from the beginning of the creation. In the next creation, the same living entities may not be present, but because Brahma and Shiva are existing from the beginning to the end, they are called Chira Lokapala, permanent governors. Lokapala means predominating deities. There are 8 predominating deities of the prominent heavenly planets, and they are Indra, Agni, Yama, Varuna, Niriti, Vayu, Kuvera, and Shiva. Who knows who Niriti is? Is that Yamaraj, Lord of Death? Oh no, Yama's there already. Yama, Varuna, Niriti. Oh, it's Kuvera. Oh, okay. Thank you, Madhupati. Om Gyanatamaranda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshan Maritam Jaina Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapatrubhischa Kripasindhubhya Paridnam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, this is explaining how there's many universes that have many Lord Brahmas and Lord Shivas inside them, and they're uncountable. So, as Gopalakshmi Vishnu, actually, Karanlakshmi Vishnu is exhaling, then all the universes are coming out, and then as he inhales, they all come back in. Do the universes also come out of his mouth, or only out of the pores of his skin? Jainanda. I've heard they come out of his skin, but if you're breathing out, you'd wonder, because most of it's going to come out of your mouth, isn't it? That's Gabadakashai. That's Gabadakashai. That's the one that enters into the universes, and Lord Brahma comes from the lotus in his navel. The Karanlakashai is Mahavishnu. So all those little universes, they've all got Gabadakashai Vishnu in, and they fill up with perspiration from the pores of his skin. No. Not for Karanlakashai Vishnu. Gabadak, because Gaba means perspiration. And then into each molecule, Shiradakashai Vishnu enters. So it's very intricate how it's all taking place. And so it says in the previous one, in the previous text, it says, let us therefore just describe the 1/4. Even the 1/4 we're struggling with, never mind the other 3/4. We can't even really understand what's going on with the 1/4. There was a series called The Unexplained. It was a magazine, actually. And there's so many things that they don't understand that are going on all the time. And they're saying, we'll come up with a theory in the future, but we can't figure out anything now. Which is actually, if you have real knowledge, then whatever phenomenon you come in contact with, you're able to understand it. But if you don't have real knowledge, then you have to keep changing things around, the way you see things and explain things. You explain it one way, and then later on something else contradicts that, and you have to explain it another way, and then something contradicts. So constantly they're having to recalibrate their understanding, like a kaleidoscope. No matter how many times they try, it keeps changing. Because the nature of the material energy is it's endlessly mutable. So just as you think you understand it, it defies your understanding. Have you heard of the double slit experiment? You've heard of that, yeah? So you've heard of that, yeah? So you shine the light through, and when the light comes through, on the other side on the wall, there's you shine it through a piece of metal with 2 slits in it, and the light comes through, and on the other side of the wall you can just see 2 slits. But then when you put a camera there to focus on what's going on, then it goes into many slits.
And it's not when you get the camera there. It's 2 slits you'd expect, if it's behaving like a molecule, you'd expect it to have 2 lines.
Yeah.
With the light, it forms several lines.
Yeah.
Which shows that it uses camera, no camera.
So it defies analysis, because if it's doing one thing, then why is it suddenly? So they're saying on one hand it behaves like a wave, and the other hand it behaves a different way. And at least as I heard it anyway, when the observer comes in, then it seems to change, which brings in quantum mechanics that, oh, the universe is responding to how you perceive it, which then brings in the question of consciousness, which they like to very cleanly negate, that the consciousness, doesn't matter what consciousness you're in, if you do this experiment, it will take place just the same. So actually our experience of the universe is interactive and dependent upon your consciousness. So you change your consciousness, then you change the way you perceive the universe. And then if your consciousness is in pure goodness, then you're able to experience spiritual science, and then you can attempt at least to try and understand to some degree the ekapad, the 1/4 of Krishna's energy that we're directly in contact with. And it's very hard to understand the spiritual energy because by nature it's inconceivable. It's a chinta. And conceivable is something which falls under the sway of our conception. And you can imagine if we had an ant and we could bring it up while we're giving class, and we could bring the ant up, and we have an ant translator, and we ask the ant what it thinks about what's going on in the temple room, and it will have very little understanding that there's cushions and a sound system and paintings on the wall. The ant will just be like, well, there's a crumb over there, and if I can see in the distance there's a crumb on the horizon. That's about as far as the ant's perception of what's going on is. Like us compared to the devas are aware of how the universe is structured to some degree. And then Krishna is aware of all the universes. So that's why humility is necessary, because humility just means reality, really. If you're being realistic, then you would be humble. And if you're thinking that you're really cool and you can do things really well, then you're being unrealistic. You think you have something to be proud of, but you don't even know how your body is digesting the food that you ate last night. How much you're aware of what's going on in your body. Are you aware that the hair is growing out the top of your head? Aware of your fingernails? That the blood right now is being turned into marrow for the bones. These are all, we're not even conscious of 1% of what's going on in our own body. Then we want to start talking about the universe. Any questions or comments? Well, the inconceivable becomes lovable. That's our goal. Not to be able to conceive it. Even Krishna can't conceive. He's always existed, so that in itself is an awkward one, because it means you didn't come from anywhere. You've just always been there, And that's how people like to try and behave in the material world. They just kind of live their life thinking, well, I've always been here, and I won't always be here, but I'm just going to live my life as if I always will be here. Like Vaisheshika was just saying recently, he knew some nurses that worked on the cancer ward, and they had this way of speaking when the prognosis was fatal. The person didn't have long left to live. The way that they told each other that was that they said, he won't be needing a big tube of toothpaste anymore. So that was their way of kind of euphemistically letting each other know that that person was going to die of cancer very soon, So how did I get onto that? Yeah, we're trying to live we're trying to live our life as if we're eternal. So we're going around making plans for big tubes of toothpaste. We're going to do this. We're going to make loads of money, as if we're going to be here forever, And then when it gets to the end, there's no point trying to get a big tube of toothpaste anymore. You're going to be gone in a couple of weeks. And then you have to get to grips. But that reality actually exists all the time. It's just that instead of 2 weeks, it's 2 years or 20 years or 200 years or 2 million years. But still, why try to make big plans in the material universe? So Krishna, even when you go to Vaikuntha and you're in perfect consciousness, still Krishna, Narayan, is inconceivable. It's just overwhelming awe and reverence that somebody can have so much opulence and so much power and be so cognizant of everything going on. Which is what we try to do, isn't it? We try to be all cognizant of everything going on. And in that way our minds are very easily distracted. Because we're being pulled around by the senses. So by controlling the senses, aligning them and focusing them, then Krishna can reveal Avam Sevam Mukhi Jivado. We engage in service, and then Swayam Eva Sparatyada. Swayam is the personality. Swayam Eva, everything else connected with that personality, becomes Sparat, it becomes manifest in the heart. So Lord Brahman didn't know how to create. Lord Brahman is like the original living entity that's bewildered in the material world. So he wakes up on the lotus flower. He can see the lotus flower, but he doesn't know it's a lotus flower. He doesn't know anything. He just knows he's here. It's all dark around. He can perceive this lotus flower. He goes down the lotus flower into the stem to try and find out where he's originated from. That doesn't work. He comes back up, and then he hears ta pa. So he engages in austerity. Then, when he sees Krishna, he sees trees, birds, flowers, bees. Then he knows how to create. Otherwise, it's like giving somebody a lump of clay and saying, I want you to make things. You have to be able to see, okay, so that's what a tree is like. So then you make the tree out of clay. So we're all made out of clay. And this is the original prototype is in the spiritual world. So Lord Brahma was creating using the material energy, and it's looking like flowers and bees and everything's going on because of what's there in the spiritual world. And when Krishna reveals everything, it's not so much that it's conceivable, it's that you just become aware of how inconceivable, because we're not really aware of how inconceivable it is. We just like, I've got to go to Tesco's because they're doing buy one, get one free, you know. We can get our head around that. But if you had to think, well, why are we doing this? Why is there a Tesco's? Why am I on a planet with a body like you wouldn't get anything done? So you just get on with it in the end and think, okay, well, I can conceive of this. So then when you can become aware that it's inconceivable, then that's when you're becoming humble and overwhelmed with the intricacy and fathomlessness of your existence, and even the fact that you exist. I mean, in that state of awe and overwhelming inconceivability of everything, then in that mood, then you approach Krishna and say, you're the absolute truth. You know everything, I know nothing. At least I know nothing. And that's what Einstein said. He said the beginning of knowledge is to understand that you know nothing. Once you understand that you don't know everything, then you can start to learn. So these people that are know-it-alls, who know everything, they can't learn anything. They know it all. Oh, I've been there, I've heard that. So they never learn. They just stunt their growth at that point. One time there was a bird, a blackbird, and it built a nest with a roof on top of it. And the other birds were fascinated. They said, we'd like a nest with a roof on it as well. That'd be great. Keep the rain out. You know, how do you do it? So the blackbird said, well, I don't have to keep repeating myself. So we'll meet here again under this same tree next Friday and bring all the other birds. So all the birds gathered, and the blackbird said, right, well, the first thing you do is you get this stick and you go like that. And one robin turned to the other one and said, oh, we know that. We know that already. And they flew off. And then the blackbird said, and then you get this stick and you put it there. And then a thrush turned round to another thrush and said, we know this. And he flew off, you know. And anyway, the blackbird kept going. And then when it got to the bit where it was starting to build the roof over the top, the blackbird looked round and there was no birds there. And that's why the blackbird is the only bird that can build a nest with a roof. So when you're practicing Krishna consciousness, you may reach a point where you think, oh, look, I know all this, and you decide to fly off. But you have to stay for your entire life, and then you'll understand. And understand is interesting. Understand, the word in Sanskrit, means to stand under, means to situate yourself under the shelter of something. So when you really understand, it really means I am putting myself under the shelter. I mean, you would never, if you're looking at Govardhan Hill, right, and you're thinking, 7-year-old boy on the tip of his foot, there's no way I'm going under that. I'll take my chances in the rain. I'll get a really good umbrella, but there's no way I'm going under there. No way. And you're thinking, how's the kid even doing it? You know, it's inconceivable. And how long is he going to be able to do it for? You know, even if he is doing it right now, which is inconceivable, even if he can carry on for another hour, I mean, he's going to have to go to the toilet at some point. He's going to go and eat something. He's going to have to sleep. No way, I'm not going under there at all, you know. But when you stand under and you take shelter, then everything's fine. And it is inconceivable. It does not make sense. Why would you stand under a mountain? It does not make sense. There's no logical reasons why you would do it, you know. You'd exhaust every other alternative because that is such a dodgy thing to do, you know. And at one point, Krishna even the mountain was starting to shake, you know. And all the cowherd men were like this, and Krishna was laughing because they were all trying to, with their sticks, to try and hold it up, you know. So, and in the end, they just accepted. Look, whoever this boy is, this cowherd boy, it looks like he's going to be able to pull it off. We're going to be okay here, you know. And they just surrendered to it and accepted. So when you just accept the inconceivability of Krishna and just situate yourself under the shelter of Krishna, that's how we understand something, because understanding means to take shelter. And we have a very poor understanding of understanding. We're thinking that understanding means you figure this out and then you can exploit it. That's our present way that we translate understanding something. Do you understand something? Yeah, I understand that there's this oil under the ground and you drill it and bring it out and you make tons of money. Oh yeah, well, he's definitely understood it then, you know. But he hasn't understood it at all. They don't even really know how the oil is produced in the first place. You know, they keep coming up with these different conflicting theories. Some even say you can't run out of oil because the earth is continually producing it. And it's producing it at a quicker rate than we can use it up. Because the people that are saying that are the ones that are selling it. So then people understand things according to their desires. So they say, oh, I understand how it works, because that way they can exploit it. But the fact that they're exploiting it means they don't understand how it works, because when you exploit something in the material world, you become entangled and you get the reaction for it. So then they obviously don't understand. Because why would you want to put yourself into a situation where you're going to suffer in the future? So before we can understand something, we have to understand what understanding means. It means standing under. And that's conceivable. You can do that. Krishna's saying, look, just surrender to me. Don't try and figure me out. Don't put the cart before the horse. The understanding will come once you surrender to Krishna. Once you stand under Krishna, then you'll understand. Don't say, I'll stand under you, Krishna, once I understand you. Once I've figured it out and you give me a good reason why I should, you know, show me the documents that prove that your finger can lift a 15,000-ton hill for a week. When I see all the documents and I understand it, then I'll stand under it. Yes, Guru ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai, Gaur Premanandi. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, Arjuna, he was bewildered, and then he just decided, okay, I'm not going to be able to do this myself, you know. So then he put aside his pride or his faith in his own ability to come to the right conclusion, and he just dropped the whole thing. He'd come up with things, and Krishna said, "Just you're speaking really learnedly, but actually you're proving that you're just a fool." So then he thought, okay, I'm going to drop this. I'm not going to bother trying to be clever anymore. Krishna, you just tell me then what it is, you know. And that's when you're at that point, then you're ready for initiation. Otherwise, if you still think you're clever and you know better than the spiritual master, then you're not ready just yet. You have to kind of pipe down a bit in Krishna consciousness, especially if you're rubbing shoulders with people that have been round the block 50 times. You start thinking, oh, right, okay. So they are way ahead in their experience and practice of Krishna consciousness. Let me stop trying to challenge it and just, okay. And even if they are wrong, the fact that you followed it means that you're right. And I've seen that in my short life, that you can follow somebody and they end up being wrong, but because you followed them, you did the right thing. So then you're always protected,
Obviously, you can find somebody who's a good fighter against Krishna, but who's going to be shooting. Is that kind of what you're saying? You can find some people not people go wrong because they're doing that, they get thrashed and
well, Bhishma is an interesting situation, which is another subject. Yeah, he's one of the Mahajans. He's one of the great acharyas, and Krishna, nobody could pacify Yudhisthira. He said that, and Krishna said to him, even Krishna couldn't pacify Yudhisthira, because the guilt of being the cause of the death of over 600 million people was just too overwhelming for Yudhisthira, because he knew that if he'd have just given in, none of that would have happened, So he really felt the weight. And then Krishna said to Yudhisthira, go to Bhishma and he'll explain things, and then Bhishma was able to pacify him. Yeah, it's the whole subject of the Mahabharata is interesting, because with the Ramayana, you draw this line, and on that side are the bad guys, and on that side are the good guys. But on the Mahabharata, there's good guys and bad guys everywhere. This one's over here, that one's there, this one did a bad thing. What Drishtadyumna did to Dronacharya was really bad, but he was on the good side. Everyone was appalled by that, hacking his head off while he was in trance, So, I'm not sure whether that would apply. But yeah, the general principle is that when you reach a point where you're bewildered, then at that point, very humbly accept it. Don't pretend that you're not bewildered, and then approach your authorities, approach the senior devotees. If your Diksha Guru is not able to be approached, then establish relationships with devotees where you can take shiksha from them in your immediate vicinity. Try and see, well, maybe Krishna's pumped me with these devotees for a reason, and let me try to take shelter of them and get the direction that I need right now, because I'm overwhelmed. I'm not quite sure. And Arjuna was bewildered because he wanted to do his duty. He wanted to do the right thing, So that's another problem. You may not want to do your duty. You may be bewildered because actually you don't really want to surrender, and you're looking for an excuse. And then the last thing you want to hear is somebody telling you that you're not trying to surrender here, you're trying to wriggle out. So you have to be the item yourself. If you are genuinely bewildered because you want to perform your duty, but maybe you're bewildered, Bogishvara Prasaktanam Taipri. Whoop, steady there, Jana, nearly fell off. Taipri Taitasam. It may be that you're bewildered because of being attracted to opulence, and then the rest of the determination of devotional service won't take place. So you may be bewildered because of your own shortcomings, And then Ehihakuranandana, you won't be single-pointed. So we have to clear away all the distractions so that we're not bewildered, and then, okay, that's what I need to do. Yes, Guru Vrinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi.